that card felt like the most force crafty card in the world, and that the fact that it's not in rotation anymore makes me so sad.
Maybe they'll reprint it. They did with Soul Conversion, Fate's Hand, and
Fairy Circle would be a very nice card to reprint. I want them to make us like a 2-mana Sniper Circle that puts 2 Elfchild Maze into your hand.
That might be a little strong.
Oh, definitely.
Of course, we see Sealed Tome in the opening hand again for Lucete. Not a shabby hand for Mr. Shadowcat either.
Yeah, once again, we're seeing Globe of the Starways into Sealed Tome. I feel like we've seen Haven open this every single time so far today.
Very likely could just go Moriai on 2 and Moriai on 3 here.
Yeah, make it very
effectively turning off Portal's already not super strong early game. On average, Portal is very... Of course, they do have the decent curve here with Miriam next turn into Analyzing that he just put in his deck.
Yeah, I think this is one of the nicer hands you could have for Portal because you'll be able to go Hamlin onto your your Analyzing artifact as well, and you can just start generating lots and lots of ways to draw cards and other artifacts.
Not quite the super curve that you have on turn 2 with the Biofab. So you go super wide on like turn 3 and it's just unanswerable and you pretty much play aggro Portal.
Yeah, he's still going to be able to have a pretty aggressive start depending on how he wants to go about this stuff. But the thing is, he's got these substitution really not too great on this board. Obviously, as there's no creatures on the side of the Haven's board.
Of course, the one of these 2/1s getting popped away. I think we'll likely see this Black and Scripture on the 2/1.
Yeah, you want to deny that card draw when you have a chance to.
And this is the first game we've seen Lucete play that he doesn't have his temple on board. So we're about to see how he plays around this without the temple, just with the crystals. Of course, he has plenty in hand. Highly doubt we'll see a 5-mana lion come down here.
Now, I'm interested, why do you think we see the Evolve here on the 4/3 and not on the 2/2? If there is something like a second Black in Scripture, you are playing a little bit harder into that. Knowing that Moriai would have hit the 2/2, obviously, why he did that.
I can't think of a reason. It's definitely possible it was just a misplay. Autoaim being Autoaim, I don't believe that very readily. But it's possible, I suppose. Of course, we see Lucete opting not to trade over it anyways. I can't think of a reason to evolve the Analyzing there over the Magisterial Lion, but there might have been one for Autoaim or Mr. Shadowcat.
The Legend 27.
Of course, always have Icarus.
Now, this Icarus is not going to guarantee him the Rush artifact, but it is still going to get it.
Still going to pull it anyways. Very smooth turn here if he decides to play that into the Neck Wing. Of course, he does opt to go for the substitution and hold the puppet instead.
Substitution, I think, is just a little bit more awkward considering you have 2 of them, and it is pretty expensive. So I think that makes sense, just getting it out of the hand while you have a chance.
Instant slam on that Lion Temple top deck. Maybe we'll see a crystal come down into a Peace Weaver here.
Maybe we'll see a crystal come down into a few more crystals.
Of course, this crystal was going to be the 4/4 into the Now East and then evolve here. Interesting that he chose to hold that artifact when Deus comes down this turn, and he'll be in Resonance if he chooses to not kill the artifact on the board. So he might just see that one artifact in hand get milled away.
Well, he does have the Analyzing artifact, so he can just sacrifice the Analyzing artifact and pull himself out of Resonance should he choose to do that. He's not even going to do that.
Alright, opts to play the Deus later on. A fine play. Not often done, but not terrible.
Usually you see people prioritize getting their Deus Ex out of their hands, but sometimes your hand is just fine. You don't need to get it out right away.
Autoaim right here is prioritizing a higher tempo turn and guaranteeing that he can get his Deus off next turn because he can kill that artifact off. Of course, the Banish just drawn, making that maybe not the easiest thing. And we do, of course, see that come out.
Father Punishment just being played as a vanilla 1/1.
I believe Lucete plays 3, so he has liberty just to play these out.
He's also out of Evolve, so there's really not too much else
Also
to
true.
get out of it.
Also true. And we still see Deus Ex not coming down here. We'll likely see the Evolve on this Icarus, followed up by the Hakrabi. Hakrabi and Resonance, of course, pulling 2 artifacts.
And this is going to...
Mr. Shadowcat playing Portalcraft without the without Deus active. Peace Weaver into another line here doesn't feel too bad at all.
It doesn't feel bad, but you still you have to feel like if you're Lucete that you're falling a little bit behind. You are losing this damage race. You are getting closer to those Storm Lions, though.
Oh, definitely. And the Biofab gives him a way to turn on Resonance this turn if he chooses to play the Deus Ex, which he does.
I think he'll absolutely be doing that.
And he can also play out his entire hand of artifacts here. Got to throw away the Saphira, but I'm sure he runs 2 others.
He plays 2 Sephiras. He's not playing the third.
2 Sephiras. Either is fine. I find it doesn't matter too much. Opts to leave the 4/4 on the board. He has the liberty to do this because he's still at 20 HP.
Yeah, he's saying, my 4 damage to your face matters a lot more than your 4 damage to my face at the moment. And it makes sense because that Deus Ex Machina on the field being a 4/5, we talked about this earlier, that's a very hard stat line for the Lion Crystals to deal with. It requires, at the very least, 2 Storm Lions to deal with it. That's quite expensive.
And we don't quite have lethal left on board still, but it's pretty close. He can just clear out this 1 ward with another Analyzing in hand here. Of course, choosing to copy it with Hamlin first.
He's got this Acceleratium in his hand. He's just going to be able to draw tons of cards. And
yeah, he's going to full clear this board with this Acceleratium. I'll tell you what, when this deck fell out of favor at the end of last expansion, I was not sad about it whatsoever.
I wasn't either. This deck, sometimes it just feels so impossible to beat, especially once they get into this late game where they're able to keep drawing through their deck with their Deus Ex Machinas and keep putting so many creatures with Rush onto the field with their Acceleratiums. It feels a lot like how the Lion deck feels, actually, where once it gets going, it's just, you're too far gone. There's nothing you can do to really come back.
Yep, and I think we'll see Saphira come down here for tempo.
Well, the Saphira will likely end the game next turn, should he decide not to.
I mean, of course, he's also on 1 HP.
Maybe we'll see Seraphic Blade, just to remove that. What do you think about that?
He could definitely play the Fervent Soldier into the Seraphic Blade, just to remove the Temple. This game is all but over for Lucete here. Autoaim just chooses to pass there. Says, I don't need to close this game, guaranteed. That's not what he was actually saying, but it was funny. These Storm Lions not going to make a huge difference. And that'll be game 1, going to Shadowcat 52 against HSK's Lucete.
So, I wonder what these players are going to be doing when it comes to their sideboards. So, in the Portal sideboard, there is the 3rd Substitution, 1 Ironforged Fighter, 2 Basilius, I think that's a very interesting card to have in the sideboard, 1 Magna Legacy, 2 Puppeteer Strings, Biofabrication, 2 Cat Cannoneers, and 2 Iron Staff Mechanics. I find it interesting that the 3rd Deus Ex actually isn't in the sideboard.
Is he only playing 2 in his main?
He's only playing 2 in the main deck.
Interesting.
Or not Deus Ex, the 3rd Saphira, rather.
Oh, Saphira, rather. Okay. Yeah. I was really confused for a second.
Yeah, no, I meant the Saphira. I still find that to be a little interesting, though.
Now, I'm not super familiar with the matchup between the Haven archetypes and Artifact Portal, as I haven't played versus any Artifact Portal as Haven on ladder or anything. What do you think Lucete wants to go to Tinko here or stay on Lions? What do you think is the better matchup?
Well, Tenko allows you to keep your opponent's board clean every turn, but I feel if you're playing the Tenko game plan, it's going to be hard to actually push that damage because Artifact Portal does have access to so many just cheap ways to flood onto the board. But we did see that the Lionhaven did struggle last game. And again, we see Lucete not leaving the room.
Now, the struggling could have just been because he didn't have the Lion Temple down early. Of course, he drew it on turn 6, I believe, that game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Autoaim goes into his sideboard expecting Tenko to come out here? Because he's playing like Iron Staff mechanics in his sideboard, and if it's Tenko, do you think you put those in just to have 3 health bodies?
I think if you're Autoaim, you're looking at your sideboard, and you're not really seeing all too much that's that helpful. I think maybe we might see this Ironforged Fighter come in. Maybe we'll see this Magna Legacy come in, because Magna Legacy only needs to be at 4 power to really be able to deal with a whole bunch of lions. But other than that, I don't think Cat Cannoneer lines up too well against lions. Iron Staff Mechanic lines up okay because as a 2/3, it's able to trade over 2/2s.
And then evolve over a 4/4.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like Iron Staffs coming in just because if Lucete does switch over to Tenko here, then there are 3 health bodies, meaning they take 2 pings to kill, which I think is very relevant in Tenko matchups.
So we'll have to see what these players bring in. They are starting right now.
Does he play any Ironforged Fighters in his main board, or just the one in the side?
I think it's just the one in the side, but I'll double check.
Just the one in the side.
Alright, so
we'll likely see Autoaim keep the Miriam and throw back the Acceleratiums. Of course, he chooses to throw away the Miriam also, not guaranteeing himself a turn 2 play.
Well, going second, Miriam is not exactly the best 2-drop you could have.
Going first. But yes, you're right. It is not. Of course, he draws into the Icarus. Father Punishment for tempo and 1 here. Vibrating his way onto the board.
He's so tense in that his animated artwork.
He's very angry. He's ready to punish.
So
I think we'll likely see Seraphic Blade come down.
Seraphic Blade, we saw that kept in the mulligan. Interesting.
Lion Crystal, just to get the 2-2 down.
I was thinking since we saw the Seraphic Blade kept in the mulligan, he was saving it for a 2-2, but I guess not.
What do you think he's planning to use this on, if not for the 2-drop going second?
Acceleratium.
6 mana to kill a 1 play point amulet doesn't exactly sound like the embodiment of worth to me.
Seraphic Blade will destroy any amulet or creature under 2 play points. So in the non-enhanced version, Seraphic Blade will be able to deal with an Acceleratium.
Oh, yeah. I had this conversation with you earlier. I keep forgetting that its enhance is a thing.
It's a quite relevant thing, too.
Or not that its enhance is a thing, but that the 2 play point restriction is a thing.
So this is a good board. He's gonna good turn. He's gonna develop that Morai. He's gonna be able to get up on the board, and he's also gonna get a Lorena's Holy Water for his troubles.
Yep, just some heal.
And if you look at the hand of the portal, it's really not looking too great. It's kind of lacking on some real value. You're really looking for your Deus Ex Machina to help get you out of the situation, but as we can see, he just doesn't have it at the moment.
Yeah, not the greatest hand in the world, although I said earlier, and I think it's about to be very relevant, this Lionhaven list has a very hard time dealing with followers with more than 5 defense. More than 4, even. If he's willing to take the RNG on the Moria, he can just Evo the Saphira face, and I don't think there's a whole lot that Lucete can do about it, assuming that it doesn't get pinged by these Moria. That is probably too risky to go for with the Moria on the board, but we could see it come down after they're gone if he doesn't draw into his Deus Ex.
Well, looking at Shadowcat's hand, well, now that there's a Hakrabi off the top, that might change things. Hakrabi into an ancient artifact, for instance, can be pretty strong here. And
2 analyzings, however. Of course, can't play those alongside the acceleration.
yeah, a little unfortunate there.
Biofab in hand would have made that really nice.
And now this whole board, I feel, is going to get cleaned up here. The Black in Scripture, unless this puppet takes the hit here,
Absorbs the 25%,
that matters quite a bit here.
and it doesn't.
It doesn't, but it does get the best target for him. Other than the puppet, that was the best target because that analyzing artifact had a Black in Scripture with his name all over it.
Double Scripture coming out from Lucete here, and I believe this is his 3rd line.
I believe so. So starting next turn, we might start seeing 4/4 lions come down.
Of course, he has to get by the Prism Swing to get those crystals out.
And he's going to need to start finding some more lion cards within the not-so-distant future. But as long as Shadowcat keeps stumbling and not finding anything of significant value, Hakrabi once again will help, but it might not be enough. I actually don't even know if there are enough artifacts in the deck at the moment for that Hakrabi.
I wasn't exactly counting specific artifacts. There might not be. Prism Swing comes out here. Likely see it alongside the Naois.
So Seraphic Blade feels kind of nice, but as we know, it's really not enough because there's a second accelerating in the hand.
But potentially nothing to use it on if this Hakrabi is...
If the Hakrabi whiffs.
It whiffs, if there's nothing in deck for it to pull. It's very likely. I have not been counting artifacts, as I should have been.
Yeah,
But we're just going to see this Saphira come down, maybe Evo'd face. Nope, decides to trade.
the Saphira is going to trade, so that tells us that there is most likely not enough artifacts in that deck for that Hakrabi to be worth it here.
If I'm Lucete in this situation, I'm breathing a sigh of relief, and I'm playing as many crystals as I can this turn.
So what do you think is up with that Hollow Dogma? What's the point of that?
The way I see Hollow Dogma in these Lion lists, the only non-card draw countdown amulet in the deck, I believe, is Moria Encomium. For 4 mana, destroy a random enemy follower. It's discount Tribunal. That's the way I've been playing it, and that's the way I've been seeing them used.
Now, that Hakrabi pulled nothing there, right? We just saw it get played for nothing?
Yes.
It's unfortunate.
And with no more artifact generators in hand, and nothing even for this Hamlin to copy,
And
the Lion Temple drawn for Lucete, this game is suddenly looking in Lucete's favor. We'll likely see Prism Swing to generate another Lion Crystal here. Decides not to evolve face.
No need to use your last evolve. You're in a perfectly fine position right now if you're Lucete.
And after 3 expansions, this is still Portalcraft. You don't draw your Deus Ex, you run out of your options early, you fall flat on your face. This is his last ditch push here. I believe 2 more crystals and he has Storm. 1 more. Next one was Storm. I was incorrect.
The first one had the storm, so this is just probably going to be to clear everything here.
Trade with one, face with the other. He does have plenty of these in hand. Not nearly enough artifacts killed this game for lethal with a Saphira top deck, so you're feeling pretty good as Lucete.
Now,
Even if you top deck Deus Ex here, you're dead on board, and if you weren't, you're not in Resonance.
even if Autoaim top decks something like a Magna Legacy, it's just not even close to enough because you do have these Storm Lions.
Yep, just passes it back. And that's going to be game number 2 for Lucete. Taking whole advantage of the downside of playing Artifact Portal. Very strong when it does its work, but falls flat on its face when it doesn't have its Deus Ex.
So these players are going to be getting into their last game in just a minute. Now, it seems like Shadowcat is immediately clicking that ready button. He has no cards that he wants to bring into it from his sideboard. And Lucete also doing the same, just not interested in sideboarding here. I find this so interesting that these players just aren't sideboarding all too often. So Lucete going first, Shadowcat going second. Double Temple of the Holy Lion in the opening hand. Both of those are going to be getting kept. And from Shadowcat's hand, also a pretty good hand. You have Seraphic Blade to deal with one of these Temple of the Holy Lions. You have your Hakrabi to help out on turn 5, and you have your Deus Ex on 6. So all you're really looking for is your early couple turns here. Meta production, a very good way to deal to at least help start off that artifact generation. But this is all 3 of the temples here. This can get out of control very fast. I imagine this temple is going to immediately get Seraphic Bladed, which it will. And that's all great, but there's 2 more of these temples here.
Alright, sorry about that. I got a phone call. Had to step out for a minute. I am back. The Tempo Father Punishment, putting it at chip damage, doing work.
Yeah, so we've already seen one of these Temple of the Holy Lions get cleared off by a Seraphic Blade. We have one already on the field and the third already in the hand. So it looks pretty good for Lucete here. This is not to discount Shadowcat's hand. He's got some good things going on for him.
Yep, drawing his Deus Ex this time. Hopefully be able to put those to work. But more Lion Crystals coming down. He could play all 3 of these this turn if he so chooses. I doubt he will, as he needs to guarantee he has one later on. Probably see Naois come down. Or some draw.
Forbidden Teachings, very good here, because we already know you're going to likely want to play that Lion Crystal next turn for 5, and then that'll refund 2 play points and allow you to play it again. Lion Crystal is a spell, not a creature, so the Forbidden Teachings won't mess you up when you're trying to play that.
Of course, copying the Analyzing here, going to be able to play both those out, clear out this board without an Evolve. Feels very nice.
You can clear... Oh, yes, you can clear both.
You could Evolve here to have yourself a bigger board. Do you think it's worth? Autoaim says yes.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I'm sorry. Shadowcats says yes.
I believe you mean the Legend 27.
He says yes. Okay. Is it Shadowcats or Shadowcat?
It is Shadowcat 50-something, I believe.
How many Shadowcat? Yeah, there it is.
Shadowcat 52.
Shadowcat. Only one Shadowcat, not multiple.
I thought there were 52 Shadowcats.
No, he's the 52nd one.
Oh, gotcha. See, I didn't go to medical school. I'm just not prepared to answer these questions.
Well.
So this Lion Crystal, I believe, will get us a 4/4, right?
Yes, the glowing enhance effect means it is online. It will summon a 4/4. It doesn't change colors when it'll summon a storm, but it does change colors when it'll summon a 4/4. He's debating, I believe, probably the Seraphic Blade here.
Might also see the Morai.
Very likely. I think he wants to play the crystal out here to get the 4/4, because it really progresses your game. But with no other crystal generators in hand, it's a hard decision to make. It is a lot of tempo, though. Chooses to get the Acceleration.
All right.
Acceleratium?
Acceleratium. And this Holy Shield line is going to go into that 2/1. Now, that's going to get substituted if Shadowcat decides to go for that. Biofabrication.
No artifacts in hand to use that on yet.
But
could Hakrabi first.
I do believe there are artifacts in the deck, though. So if there are artifacts like an Analyzing or a Rush artifact, that can set up for something like the Hakrabi into Deus Ex Machina plus Biofabrication the next turn.
The hesitation makes me think there might not be artifacts in the deck. And as we do see, he goes for the Magestial Lion. Looks like there wasn't any artifacts. Likely go for the substitution play. Might just trade away his 4/1 here.
He might feel a little obligated to trade like that, yeah, and he does.
Yep, saves his Evolve.
So, depending on what gets drawn here, Hallowed Dogma.
All right, gonna draw a couple times with these encomiums. And just gonna play out this 2/2. Might see an Evolve here.
Do you think this is going to be a Holy Water or a Fist?
He took the Holy Water.
Took the Holy Water? So saying, I need more cards, I need to find my Lion Crystals. Because really, at this point, that's the most important card. Once Lucete finds a Lion Crystal, he should be set.
I think taking the Holy Water is smart, as the removal spell only hits for 4, and there's nothing bigger than that in Artifact Portal, except for Deus Ex and Evoed Saphira, or Saphira in general. Hakrabi if they're Evoed too, but not often are those things on the board at full health. Seeing the Evo on the artifact here to maintain his resonance and maintain the health on the Deus Ex.
Yeah, you don't often see an Evo on a puppet. Not always the greatest feeling in the world, but he gets the job done here.
Still no more crystals in hand.
And
finds some.
Finally finds a Peace Weaver.
Likely to see that come down alongside the Sealed Tome. And I believe he summoned 5 lions this game. Or 4. Did he summon 1 or 2 4/4s?
I think this was he's had 2 4/4s, I think.
Alright, so 1 more 4/4 and then you get storms rolling, it sounds like.
Yeah, these lions are going to be in storm mode in the not-so-distant future. Probably only a turn or 2 more of this.
Surprised we don't see Autoaim go for the Seraphic Blade here. Oh, he might still. He has acceleration down on board. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I think you have to really start slowing down these crystals before they really start getting out of control.
Also surprised he chose to trade with that Analyzing Artifact and keep resonance, or turn off his resonance here. We might see an evolve on this Icarus just to pull him back into resonance, so that he can dump this hand. Not a whole lot to do with it if he decides to keep it. Also decides to use the Seraphic Blade on the Encomium instead of the Temples.
That's very interesting.
I think he just wanted to clear up the board spot to get the second Icarus down.
Just to put maybe some more artifacts into the deck.
Interesting play, but I don't know if it's gonna... I don't know how it's going to work out. Maybe the Analyzing sack was a misclick, so he had to play it like that to get resonance back?
That might be the case. I'm just curious to see how Lucete is going to deal with this board. This next Lion Crystal, I believe, will get a Storm Lion, so that could trade into the 4/4 should he decide to go with that.
And this is why I'm playing Jean's in my Lion main board. And this is why I think Lucete should have considered, especially in this matchup, pulling them in here. Because it would deal with this board in one fell swoop.
Well, it would deal with most of the board.
It'd leave a 4/1, and then you wouldn't feel too bad about it.
You wouldn't feel too great, though, because you do know you're passing the turn back to your opponent. They have a lot of play points left to play with, and they do have that Acceleratium already on the field, so you know you're going to get your Jean answered pretty easily.
Yep, Prism Swing here, another generator for crystals. And Lucete's just going face here. He knows that he can't really deal with this board in any reasonable fashion, so he's trying to push damage and end the game here as soon as he can. Of course, with 2 Temples on turn 9, you can get 12 damage to face with your Storm Lions active. So if any of these live, he has a 2-turn... Or no matter what, he has 2-turn lethal.
He will,
as long as he doesn't die first.
Yeah, he can't get a lethal faster than that, though.
Yeah. Not going to be possible. That's the limitation of these Lion Crystals, is you cannot do more than 12 damage in a turn without something living on board previously. And you can never do that more than that with 2 Temples on board. And maybe Autoaim knew that, which is why he chose to hit the Encomium with the Seraphic Blade.
Mm-hmm. It's very possible. You don't really... The difference between 1 and 2 of these Temples, once it's this late into the game, isn't really that massive, since it actually does take up a slot on the board. And this 4/4, I feel, will finally get dealt with by this Prism Swing, but there's still quite a bit of space for Shadowcat to load up on the board. Maybe see the Fervent Machine Soldier just to put himself into resonance, get a new hand.
Is this his second Saphira?
This, I believe, is his first Saphira.
All right, so he's not going to feel...
Did he use one to trade this game?
That might have been last game.
I think it was last game.
I don't think he feels too bad about dumping the Saphira if he chooses to do so. Yep, and he's going to choose to do so. Of course, it feels bad to pull yourself into resonance by pulling artifacts from your deck, as that's not very much value.
You don't really need those artifacts, though. Now, Prism Swing, going to take care of that. And
And I think if we see one lion face here and then not use the second lion, excuse me, he sets himself up for lethal next turn, assuming no wards come down. And Saphir is not active. So I think his best line might just be to go face here for 4 and maybe play out the legendary fighter or something. Chooses to draw instead.
Global of the Starways. Now he is able to Hollow Dogma this, so it won't be on the board next turn. Very importantly, because if that was on the board, he would actually lock himself out of that 12 damage that he needs to close this out.
Yep, of course, needing 3 of these crystals next turn going down to get lethal. Of course, he sees the setup. And there are no wards in the hand for Mr. Shadowcat here. I don't see there's any way... Well, he has
2 wards in the sideboard, but we haven't seen...
He has Iron Staff mechanics in his sideboard.
But we haven't seen any of them being brought in yet.
So it would seem that he chose not to bring them in. And with no way to ward in hand, and...
What we saw there was the Panic Miriam. When you start running out of options, you put Miriam in Angel mode and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Angel mode on Miriam is oftentimes the wrong choice.
This looks like game for Lucete here, as there's no way to get lethal this turn, and there's no wards in hand.
Something that you often hear is sometimes people will say, even if you play Miriam in the Devil mode and you pull nothing with it, people will often say that's better than playing Lyriel in Angel mode and putting 2 bad artifacts into your deck.
It can be true. Drawing primes can be bad sometimes. And that's going to be Lucete going over Autoaim in the semifinals 2-1.
So congratulations to Lucete making it to the finals. Lucete is on a rampage the past couple days.
Playing very well with this new meta. Very obviously liking this Lion Haven deck.
Yeah, both times being his key deck. The one really bringing him to success is his Father Punishments.
Father is punishing his